When you get sick, what's the first thing you do? You go to a doctor, right? We trust the experts, the white coats, the official guidelines. But what if the advice we've all been following for decades? What if it's based on a flawed hypothesis? That's the huge question at the center of the material we're breaking down today.
And this quote, well, it really gets right to the point. It challenges the very foundation of modern nutritional advice. It suggests that our complete faith in authority might actually be a part of the reason we're seeing skyrocketing rates of diseases like type 2 diabetes and obesity.
This slide lays it all out, nice and clear. It's authority versus data. In one corner, you have the expert's word. What we're told is true. And in the other, you have the direct, undeniable feedback from your own body. The whole argument here is that these two are often telling completely different stories.
All right, so let's dive into the first big piece of this puzzle, what some are calling a crisis of authority. It's all about this major disconnect between the advice we're getting and the actual health results we're seeing all around us.
Here's the thing that just doesn't add up. For decades, we've all heard the same advice, right? Eat a balanced diet, cut back on fat, get more exercise. And yet, conditions like type 2 diabetes and obesity, they're climbing faster than ever. The advice and the results are literally going in opposite directions. It's a huge paradox.
And you've probably heard all the usual reasons, right? Oh, it's just your genes, you're just getting older. Or my favorite, the super vague eat a balanced diet. These are often thrown around like they're facts set in stone. But the material we're looking at challenges every single one of them, suggesting they might just be excuses that are hiding a more uncomfortable truth.
Which, of course, leads to the big, kind of scary question at the center of all of this. What if the official playbook is just wrong? What if the very guidelines designed to keep us healthy are actually part of the problem? So how do we even begin to answer that? Well, the argument here is that we need to zoom out. And I mean way out. Not just looking at the last few decades, but at the entire sweep of human history.
Okay, get ready for this, because this timeline, it puts things into a wild perspective. For 2.5 million years, the human diet was pretty straightforward. It was mostly meat and fat from hunting. Then, about 10,000 years ago, the agricultural revolution introduced grains. That's just a tiny sliver of our history. And our modern dietary guidelines, the famous food pyramid, it's barely a blip, a 50-year-old experiment.
So what you're really looking at here is a showdown between two totally different sets of data. On one side, you have a 50-year-old hypothesis, one that you could argue has been influenced by all sorts of things. On the other side, you have a 2.5 million year-long clinical trial that literally shaped who we are.
I mean, just let that number sink in for a second. 99.6%. The claim is that modern nutritional science, by building everything on a foundation of grains and carbs, is effectively ignoring almost our entire evolutionary history. It's a staggering thought that completely reframes the debate.
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting. We're moving from history and theory to a real-world, personal experiment. The idea is that we don't have to guess anymore. We can actually measure the truth for ourselves.
The setup laid out is actually pretty simple, but it's kind of brilliant. You take the official advice and you put it in a head-to-head battle with the diet we evolved on. And the judge in this fight, it's not going to be an expert panel. It's going to be the body's own raw data. Its blood sugar response.
So, in one corner, we have meal A, the healthy choice. You know, brown rice and veggies, the kind of thing a doctor might tell you to eat more of. And in the other corner, meal B, the supposed villain, a steak cooked in butter. Now, conventional wisdom is crystal clear about which one should be healthier. But what does the data actually say?
Now, before I show you the results, we gotta quickly talk about what we're measuring. What's a blood sugar spike? Well, when your blood sugar shoots up after a meal, your body has to release insulin to deal with it. If you keep doing that, meal after meal, day after day, it's like knocking on a door so loudly and so often that the person inside just starts to ignore you. That's insulin resistance, and it's seen as the gateway to all sorts of chronic diseases.
All right, here we go. The results. And wow, they are not subtle. The meal B, the steak and butter, caused pretty much no change in blood sugar. A nice, stable, flat line. Just clean energy. But meal A, the healthy brown rice, it sent blood sugar through the roof. A massive spike. According to this data, the body basically treated that rice like a bowl of sugar.
So the takeaway from this little experiment is, well, it's pretty direct. It suggests the real bad guy in our diet isn't the fat or the red meat we've been warned about for so long. It's the carbohydrates, the very thing that's been the foundation of healthy eating for 50 years. The body's data is telling a completely different story than the official one.
Okay, so if the argument is that carbs are causing these wild blood sugar swings, then what's the fix? The proposed solution is a diet based on this kind of real-time data, not on decades-old one-size-fits-all guidelines.
The big idea here is actually pretty simple. Stop eating the factory-made, processed stuff and get back to eating the real, nutrient-dense foods that humans have thrived on for most of history. It's about getting away from food science and getting back to biology.
So what does that look like in practice? Well, here are the key principles. Number 1, cut out the processed junk and drastically reduce carbohydrates. That means embracing a diet that's rich in healthy fats and protein, something like a Paleo or LCHF diet. It also suggests things like intermittent fasting to give your body a break. And, most importantly, to start seeing meat not as a danger, but as a safe, stable source of energy.
And really, this quote just sums the whole thing up perfectly. The idea that maybe the answer to our health problems isn't some new miracle drug or a complicated surgery. Maybe it's just as simple as taking out the foods that are causing the problem in the first place.
You see, at the end of the day, this whole thing isn't really about rice versus steak. It's about a massive shift in how you think about your own health. It's a call to stop just blindly following advice and to start becoming your own health authority by collecting and trusting your own data.
And that's the final question this all leaves us with. It puts a pretty powerful choice right in front of you. In a world filled with conflicting advice, whose are you going to follow? The external authority in the white coat or the real-time, undeniable data coming from your own body? That's a question worth thinking about.